Yes. Now, you've just come here on public transport. How was it? Were the police on public transport telling you what to do?
Honest. Oh no. Last week they asked me if I had had a mask, and I just said I'm exempt and walked off.
Right. And then they can't do anything, right?
Yeah, they can't. They really can't. I fortunately have the race card to pull, which I don't pull, but it's in the back pocket. Just being, how dare you? I'm a woman of color.
You're doing this because I'm a woman of color. That's a great one, right?
I know it's terrible, but at this point, I feel like it's all fair. TFL is ridiculous. It's useless.
Yeah.
I was on the train to Morden via Bank
right.
on the Northern Line, and suddenly it decided to go from Camden to Mornington Crescent.
Yes.
Which, if anyone knows,
haven't they? I think they've shut it though. I think they've shut the whole Bank branch is shut, isn't it?
It's not shut, but they didn't tell us that they were redirecting the train line. So I would have ended up in Charing Cross. No announcements, nothing. So I had to get off at Euston and then switch but that took up minutes of my time, which I don't have to expend for this kind of incompetence.
Well, this is the thing. You don't expect to have to make ridiculous kind of allowances for travel.
Exactly.
You think, right, I'm going somewhere which will take me half an hour, therefore I will leave half an hour for that to happen. But it's almost like now we are increasingly becoming like what used to be developing countries' capital cities, where you knew that you would take 4 hours to do anything.
Get somewhere.
It's getting like that.
But the thing is, the standard of our public services is getting worse.
It is.
That's the problem. It's not the fact that this is a slight inconvenience. This is a constant inconvenience.
Yeah.
Right. The tube strikes are happening. Basically, the whole of London is shut down because you can't get anywhere. There are no night trains.
Right.
And now, even basic announcements. This is just something that could have just been said over sort of the radio or whatever.
Yeah.
You could have just said that.
They're too busy making announcements about wearing face masks. Though,
oh yeah, or like touching. I saw like there was a sign in the station, just outside saying you cannot touch anyone. I was like, oh, you've made that perfectly clear, but can you make the trains work?
Yeah, that's all you ask for, really.
Yeah.
It's not really asking too much, is it?
Exactly.
Just have a service that people can use. I mean,
It's not getting worse.
I didn't used to have a car when I first worked here, and I used to go to Sussex at the weekend. I used to use the train, but it became so unreliable that I was like, quite often on a Sunday there would be a replacement bus service,
which is just
for
horrific.
some reason, when the bus service replaces the train, instead of being sensible and having a bus that runs from like one station to London, they would run it to all the other stops. And it's like, well, that works fine for the train.
And they come like once every hour.
Yeah, but also that works fine for the train because it goes in a straight line. But when you're in a bus, so instead of an hour on the train, it's 3 hours on the bus. Yeah. And you're kind of just going, I can't.
And they don't even come frequently. This is the thing.
No.
I would usually take an overground straight to King's Cross and then from King's Cross, do my business.
Right.
I refuse. I drive an extra 30 minutes to a nearby station just to make sure I'm on a London tube. But now the London tube isn't working.
No.
So, it's just... TFL is run by morons.
It really is. But the one thing that you can guarantee is that not only did they run it badly, but it costs an awful lot of money
to do it.
Do you know how many people work there who are paid more than six-figure salaries? And I think it's some ridiculous number, like 75. Yeah. There's loads of them. And nobody knows what they do. They all they all probably work from home, actually. But they're sort of commissioners of this and czars of that. And diversity specialists. And
apparently train drivers make pretty good. They make like 60 grand a year.
Oh, yeah.
So
but they're all going on strike, though, because they don't want to work 4 nights a week.
Which is because I was asking...
4 nights a year.
This is what I was... Because I didn't want to sort of put my foot in it if I didn't understand it properly. But I just thought, okay, you're on 60 grand a year, which is livable in London.
Yeah.
Just about. What exactly are you striking for?
Because they're being asked to work at night. And you think, well, you work...
Surely that's just a shift change.
Yeah, you work in a business where the trains run at night.
Yeah.
So who do you think is going to drive them? Maybe the train drivers are going to drive them. And they're supposed to be working 4 nights a year.
Yeah.
So
but these are the same people that have a problem with invisible train drivers, right? So like,
that's what's going to happen
upgrading,
in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
In the end,
upgrading
we just
our
won't
train
have
systems.
drivers.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
I mean, I was telling you, when I was a kid and I used to take the tube to school, they used to have a guard, right? In the last carriage, there was a guy that pressed the buttons to open and close the doors. And of course, that's now done automatically. When they got rid of him, you should have seen the complaints from everybody at what was then TFL.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be dangerous. People are going to die. People are going to get trapped in the doors. People are not going to feel safe enough to travel, and of course, none of that's true.
Happened, yeah.
They'll end up getting rid of everybody.
Yeah.
And there won't be anybody working there at all.
But then again, will the machines be efficient?
Well,
if it breaks down, does the whole of London come to a standstill?
They can't be any less efficient. It's a bit like I mean, I have conversations with people about everything that in this country doesn't work, like the border force, for example.
Yeah,
they can't stop people coming in.
Yeah.
And in fact, they didn't have to stop them coming in. They've actually they've asked for a judicial review, on the Home Office's plans for them to send people back, right? But also they can't run the machines at Heathrow Airport. So every now and again when you come in, you might have to wait 5 hours in a queue because the software doesn't work very well.
To scan your passport, the biometric thing?
Yeah, because sometimes the gates don't work. And then the police have just told us that they've got a new computer system, which is now £1 billion overspent, 5 years late, and it still doesn't work.
Well,
so
it's the joys of...
It is the joys. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Ghana, where your family but it can't be any less efficient than here.
I think we will surprise you.
Really? Is it worse?
It's getting better, but it's obviously the standard is still further back. I think our expectations are lower. So even if the police force did get an extra £1 billion in funding, we'd be very grateful.
But you were telling me that when you were there last, there was nobody wearing masks, there was nobody getting vaccinated.
No. But the thing is, that's because we have real concerns.
Yes.
Like, we don't have a government saying, actually, we'll pay your wages for the next year.
Right.
Just stay at home and do nothing. I mean, like, what a luxury that would be. People would cut their arms off just to be unemployed.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's an attitude towards actual life and urgency. When you have kids' school fees to pay, mouths to feed, you don't have the safety net of the government. Your attitude towards life is completely different. And I think that's what people are missing here, because we're increasingly...
We've become too comfortable.
Exactly, we're increasing, and this is the thing, the more and more we shift towards a nanny state, the more incompetent the government becomes.
Yeah. And it has become incredibly incompetent over the past sort of 6 months.
And it's ridiculous.
We're now faced with a situation, I'm saying it's to Richard Tice, where I literally don't know what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
They could do anything.
Exactly.
They
and you'd have some morons just saying, oh yeah, but it's for public.
I wouldn't be surprised if Boris Johnson walked out for his next press conference and declared that on Mondays everybody will have to wear something red.
Yeah.
On
Wednesdays we wear pink.
Yeah. Do you know, it could literally be that, because they could lock everything down, or they could release everybody. But what is disturbing me, and I noticed you retweeted it, Andrew Neil, the latest guy to come out and say people who are unvaccinated should be treated differently.
I know.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Is he going through some mental health issues?
Well, I think he's really going through some very strange... he's feeling very sorry for himself.
And doesn't he live in France?
Well, he does.
So...
Yeah. I mean, he has a place here, I think, as well. But I mean, he's kind of ruining whatever was going to be his legacy. I mean, he came out of the BBC complaining that the BBC was terrible, treated him badly, then went off to work for another organisation, which we don't mention. And then... And I'm sure they're all counting their lucky stars, going, well, thank God he didn't come here in the end.
But the thing is, he was harping on about how well vaccine passports have worked in France, but they've just closed down nightclubs.
Yeah.
You can't go to a nightclub in France.
Right.
And it's just, I was listening to the radio and they were saying, France is tackling their 5th wave. And I just think, good Lord, how many waves are there left? Like, France is in actually a worse state than the UK is, and we haven't implemented...
Well, every place, including France, where they've had vaccine passports, has not curtailed the spread of the disease, because it doesn't work. And
it sets a very dangerous precedent. This is the thing. I don't mind him having his opinions, but I just think, where is this coming from? Because this kind of goes against your tradition of,
it's not very libertarian.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, if anything, he used to be a relatively kind of, old school conservative, but interestingly libertarian conservative, and so he wouldn't normally have said something like that.
And I don't know if he doesn't understand the people, like, because for me, what people like him and even Lord Sugar, who's come out in support of these vaccine passports, what they have failed to do is make a reasonable case to the unvaccinated, addressing their concerns. I know people that are not vaccinated, one, because they don't feel it's been out long enough for us to even study the effect, which is very, very fair enough. Yeah. Right? I completely agree
anyone
with
who decides not to, it's entirely
their affair. They have their own reasons. But the thing is, my argument is, why haven't you addressed those? Because then surely if you can address the concerns that they have, then you can render their argument redundant. Like I was saying to you, I only got the vaccine because I'm asthmatic and because I didn't get COVID during the pandemic, I didn't have any natural antibodies. Right. So that's the only, I'm not getting this booster or any of that crap. Yeah. But that's the only reason why I got it. If I had gotten COVID, I wouldn't have got the vaccine because I'm 25, I'm in good health, I'm very fit, and I would have had natural antibodies, so I wouldn't have been worried about it. But I didn't, so I just thought, okay, this is fine. I'm not getting the booster or any of that stuff. And if I get COVID now, I feel like I'm really.
But of course, now they're saying, well, we're not sure if the new variant will not be completely and utterly, able to bypass the vaccine. So you better have another one. You go, well, hang on a minute. If it doesn't work for the 2 previous ones, why would you get a third one?
But the thing is, and I was making a joke, like we're not gonna be able to drink water because we're gonna have so many holes in our body from all the jabs we're gonna get. Right. And there were people that were saying, the reason why the Omicron variant has come is because Africans aren't vaccinated. And I was like, well, guess what? That's a reality you're gonna have to deal with because they're not gonna get vaccinated.
Well, also, it's kind of a misnomer to say it came from Africa because it actually didn't. It was discovered in Africa for the first
people.
Time. Yeah.
Do you not expect a virus to mutate in a population of 8 billion people, vaccinated or unvaccinated? I mean, the conversation, that particular argument is so redundant. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
It could have come from the caves of Asia. It could have come from somewhere in sort of the Appalachian Mountain. It
China?
It could have come
Possibly.
Well, yeah.
You know, I mean, which is apparently COVID-free, we're told.
I know. Well,
but we don't know if that's true.
You don't want to trust anything the Chinese
No,
government has
you
to
really
say.
don't. But I mean, if they are COVID-free, I wonder how they did that. And if they are COVID-free, shouldn't we be trying to find out what they did?
Their vaccines are like at 60% efficacy. There is not a word coming out of the CCP's mouth that I'll ever believe, ever.
You can't. You absolutely can't. But I mean, this is the thing now. We've got Boris Johnson refusing to rule out actual vaccination.
Well, he can't rule out anything.
You know, mandatory vaccines. But,
Yeah.
I mean, he's done, right? Isn't he? What do you think?
But you know the crazy... Well, yes, he is done. But I was listening to a commentator yesterday saying it's mostly the influences around him, which is fair enough. But I also think this is really... Everything that's happened during this pandemic is literally his worst nightmare. Because what made him more tolerable, I should say, not lovable, was the fact that he had this like sort of buffoonery persona, right? He was the nation's intelligent buffoon.
Yeah.
And now he's had to take on this serious role where he hasn't really been able to roll out any of the things that he wanted to, other than this whole green agenda, which nobody voted for. So it's really his worst nightmare. But I just think he can't really rule anything out because you don't know where this is going to go. You don't know how... I mean, you would think that voices of reason like sort of Lord Sugar and... Andrew Neil would say actually no to vaccine passports because it's illiberal and it's nonsense and it's not in the fabric of the society.
And it doesn't actually work.
But they're actually pushing for it. So you just think we're living in a dystopian nightmare, or the start of it, really.
No, absolutely right. And the thing is that the more we separate people in society, the worse it gets. And we now definitely have a two-tier society. We have people who think that all of these restrictions are good and they want more and they want to work from home and they
get
enjoy
paid
it.
forever.
Yeah, and they want to make sure that all of you terribly awful, ghastly people who don't wear masks and who haven't been vaccinated are somehow treated as the unclean, second-class citizens. And it's really dangerous, I think.
But at least...
just for the good of the society that we live in.
At least you can access places that the vaccinated can if you show a negative test. In most of Europe, that's not the case. They're just saying the vaccine or nothing.
Right.
And it's really like... And this is the thing. I feel really sorry for young people because if you can imagine, especially because most of the people that are not taking the vaccine are young. Yeah. Which is... You can understand why. And they're also of ethnic minorities.
Yeah, a lot of ethnic minorities aren't taking it.
That's like only 60% of the black population in the UK is vaccinated. So I'm just thinking, what worries me is you can't make a good argument to them because they were plunged into this pandemic. Their futures have been extremely destabilized. Yeah. A lot of people have been unemployed for the entirety of the pandemic. You've plunged their lives into disarray, and now you're telling them that the only way they can come out of this is to to inject a foreign substance into their body that, one, they don't trust because it's not been out long enough, and two, that they simply don't want to or they feel like they don't need. How can you possibly make a good case to them? That's where you hear crickets. And none of these people want to do that.
And also, given that everything that the government has said that if you do this, then that will happen, hasn't turned out to be true.
All these models that
why would you believe them?
Exactly.
They told us that we had to shut down in November last year to save Christmas. Didn't happen.
Save the NHS.
Didn't save Christmas.
And now the scandal coming out of Downing Street hasn't helped as well. This is the thing as well. Why should we take the vaccine and follow your rules when, just a year ago, the time when people couldn't see their dying family members, you were having a party. Yeah. And the only person that took the fall for that was
Allegra Stratton.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently and she's the only one that's to blame.
A party of one. It was a party of multiple people.
50 people.
Exactly.
Supposedly.
So what happened to all those people?
Well, I think there's going to be more coming out from there, but let's see.